You're not lazy. Science spent 20 years proving it. Right now, there's probably something sitting on your list, something you actually want to finish. You've had time for it, you've had energy for it, and somehow you still haven't started. In 2007, a psychologist named Piers Steel sat down and did something nobody had done before. He gathered the data from over 200 separate studies on procrastination and combined them into a single, massive analysis. He was expecting to confirm the obvious explanation: poor time management, laziness, a lack of discipline. That is not what he found. Steele discovered that procrastination has almost nothing to do with managing your schedule. It's not a productivity problem at all. It's an emotional one. Here's what that actually means. A researcher named Tim Pitchell at Carleton University spent years tracking university students in the days before major deadlines. He had them keep detailed journals, logging exactly what they were thinking in the moment they chose to delay a task. The pattern was almost identical across hundreds of students. They weren't thinking, "This task doesn't matter." They were thinking something closer to, "I don't want to feel this right now." The task itself, the essay, the email, the difficult phone call, wasn't the problem. The problem was the emotion attached to starting it: anxiety, boredom, self-doubt, a quiet fear of not being good enough at it. And in that exact moment, your brain makes a choice. Not a lazy choice, a very fast, very human choice. It reaches for whatever will make that uncomfortable feeling go away right now. Your phone. A different, easier task. Cleaning something that didn't need cleaning. Pitchell called this an irrational choice, because you know, even as you're making it, that it will cost you later. And you do it anyway, because your brain isn't optimizing for your future. It's optimizing for how you feel in the next 30 seconds. To understand why, you have to look at two different parts of your brain that are quietly fighting each other. Deep inside your brain sits the limbic system. It's old in evolutionary terms. It doesn't reason. It doesn't plan 5 years ahead. Its entire job is to notice threats and get you away from them immediately. And here's the part almost nobody realizes. To your limbic system, an uncomfortable task can register as a threat. Not a physical one, an emotional one. The discomfort of possibly failing, possibly being judged, possibly not being enough. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, patience, and long-term goals, is trying to say, "We need to do this eventually, and it will feel better once it's done." But the prefrontal cortex is slower, it's quieter, and under any amount of emotional pressure, it consistently loses this argument. This isn't a personal failure. This is how every human brain is built. There's an old word for this pattern, and it's much older than you'd expect. The word procrastination comes from Latin, pro meaning forward, and crastinus meaning of tomorrow. Over 2,000 years ago, a Roman writer named Publilius Cyrus wrote that constantly postponing life is what makes life itself disappear. People were having this exact fight with themselves before smartphones, before emails, before to-do lists even existed. But here's where it gets worse. In 2013, researchers Fuchsia Sirois and Tim Pitchell published a study describing what they called the procrastination cycle. You delay the task, you feel relief for a few minutes, then the guilt arrives. The task is still there, now closer to its deadline, and you feel worse about yourself for having avoided it. And that guilt, that specific, heavy feeling, makes the task even more emotionally loaded the next time you approach it, which makes you more likely to avoid it again. It's not a flaw that stays the same size. It compounds. This is why "just start it" has never worked for you. It was never a starting problem. Starting was never the missing skill. The missing piece was never discipline. It was learning to sit with an uncomfortable feeling for slightly longer than your brain wants to. Not forcing yourself through willpower. Just recognizing, in the exact moment you reach for your phone, that what you're running from isn't the task. It's a feeling. And feelings, unlike deadlines, pass. You were never failing at time management. You were fighting your own nervous system. And nobody ever told you that was the actual battle.